Welcome back to Heat Check, another massive week for our Aussies. We've got players in NBA playoff action, players being drafted to the WNBA, and all kinds of good stuff in between to break down for you today. My name is Joel Peterson, a man who's had his ears lowered freshly for our very show. He's got his eyes on everything world basketball. Is Michael Houben. Good to see you, Mick.
Good to see you as well.
Looking fresh.
Thank you, mate. Feeling a little lighter this week, yes.
Yeah, feeling more aerodynamic and more ready just to attack the world of basketball. We're going to start with the biggest story in Australian hoops this week, which is Georgia Amoore. From Ballarat to Washington, two of the biggest democratic capitals in society, of course. She's been drafted at pick number 6 by the Washington Mystics in the WNBA this week. A great achievement. Let's see how it unfolded on draft night.
With the 6th pick in the 2025 WNBA Draft, the Washington Mystics select Georgia Amoore, University of Kentucky.
And that was one of the biggest things, the way that Georgia Amoore elevated and expanded her game this past season at Kentucky in the SEC. One thing that Washington wants to do is play fast, and Georgia Amoore is incredible.
So great stuff for Georgia Amoore. So as we said, number 6 pick to the Washington Mystics. She'll link up there with a fellow country Victorian in Jade Melbourne. So two really talented Aussies in that backcourt for the Mystics. Mick, you know, the college experience, most recently at Kentucky, she brings a wealth to the table, and it's great to see her set for what should be a really exciting career.
Yeah, what a massive milestone for Georgia. As you said, such a massive college season. Came all the way from Ballarat, played NBL 1 for the Miners, and to see this big milestone in her career, what a fantastic occasion. And she was wearing the Russell Westbrook design fit as well, which I thought was really cool.
I like that she styled her outfit off Russell. I'm not sure I want her to style her game off the great man. That's the distinction I'd make there. You know, such a talented player, offensively so capable, gives everything defensively. The size, you know, maybe the question mark in terms of mock drafts, but I can't wait to see what she produces at the next level.
Yeah, just her sheer skill level at the point guard position, someone that can facilitate and score at such a high level. Really exciting to see her join the Washington Mystics, join Jade Melbourne there as well. I think she's got a phenomenal career ahead of her.
Yeah, they had a big draft crop, the Mystics, so it's going to be an exciting season for them. One of our most recent NBA draftees in the last crop was Johnny Furphy, of course. He's been doing some really good things for the Pacers and the Mad Ants in recent times, and he had a dunk this week, Mick. That was nothing short of thunderous.
Yeah, absolutely detonated on Goga Badatsky here, former Pacer. It's so great to see Johnny getting up like this, but also getting some opportunities. Someone that's sort of been toiling away in the G League, hasn't been doing too much with the actual Pacers this season, but 15 and 17 over his last 2 games. I think it's a prelude to his big second year.
Hey, and he's in really good hands at the Pacers too. Rick Carlisle is one of the best coaches in world basketball, and he is a fan of our man Johnny.
He's just a pure competitor. Everything about him is pure. Doesn't have a selfish bone in his body. Does everything hard. Does everything with the right spirit. And tonight, I mean, he was obviously a bright spot in this game. Just with the activity, the running, you know, the dunks are, you know, people get excited when a young player makes a play like that. But it's just his overall vibe is a winning vibe.
It is high praise. It's high praise indeed. And from a man who knows a bit about the Cape, the best part, Mick, might be there's another one coming in that family.
Yeah, absolutely. The Furphys keep coming. They're such a talented group. Jacob Furphy coming from Tassie as well. Just really exciting to see what both of their futures hold.
Absolutely. We've got a couple of championship winners across our show today. The first of them is Mitch Creek, who's recently wrapped up the Turkish League Championship with Trabzonspor. So he didn't play a lot in the sort of the deciding moments of this, but he had a really solid season over there.
Yeah, missed the final game, but don't get it wrong. He was the reason that Trabzonspor had such a fantastic season. Participated in 22 games, 21 of those they won. Individually had over 20 points a game, 6 rebounds a game, and they're getting promoted as a result of this big season that he's had. So he's got the job done.
Hopefully when they get promoted, they can arrange some courtside seating there. They're looking a little bit sparse on the court side. He is an interesting one, Mitch Creek. We always hear the NBL links. We know what he can do in world basketball, particularly at the NBL level. What do you think might be next for him?
Yeah, I'm getting the impression that he's got a bit of the international itch. He wants to travel around a little bit. We've seen him in all sorts of continents and have a lot of success everywhere he goes. the feeling is that he's going to continue to do that, perhaps not see him in the NBL again this time next season.
It's going to be an interesting watch to see where Mitch Creek ends up over the little while. Elijah Pepper's a big name who's been doing some huge things out west, some massive things. We knew that he was set for a big season with the Warwick Senators coming off his first NBL campaign, but going 50 and 50 in his first 2 games, so 50 in game 1, 51 in game 2. I think we need to change the name of this show from Heat Check to Inferno Inspection because of the way this man is playing.
Yeah, you can't really score a lot more than back-to-back 50 pieces, right? I think we need to remind ourselves Elijah Pepper is a bucket. A couple of years ago in NCAA, the 2022-23 season, he was the 4th top scorer in all divisions. You can look at Dalton Connect, Zach Edey, Kendrick Davis. There are so many guys that he outscored. So when you get him the ball, he's an absolute bucket.
He's playing with Todd Withers, of course, so he's got some nice support. But he's going to be a front runner for the MVP out west, you think, all season.
Yeah, I think he's someone in this role who's going to absolutely excel. Maybe not 50 pieces every night, but he's going to be putting up numbers. And when I think about Bryce Cotton's absence on the Wildcats and this sort of form, and looking at silver linings, I think he's going to help make up some of that offensive output that's going to be lost.
Yeah, there's certainly plenty to work with as far as Elijah Pepper is concerned. The NBL's recently posted its #1 or its top clips from social media across the course of the season. So you might recall this, which was Montrezl Harrell and Cam Oliver getting all kinds of tangled up at the Adelaide Entertainment Centre and just enjoying each other's company. There's a little bit of fun and games in this, isn't there, Mick?
Yeah, I don't think there's any bad spirit here. Just a couple of competitors, a couple of showmen as well. And, you know, these guys, there's never a dull moment when they're both on the court together.
It's like you and me fighting for the last of the lollybag pre-show earlier. They've been at it again in China, believe it or not, these two. They have got reacquainted. Take a look at this. Cam going up for the finish, and then Montrez is in disbelief after the foul call. And they're just, you know, there's just a little bit of jawing going on between the two of them.
Yeah, look, not unprecedented behaviour from Trez. We know he's an emotional guy. I think he might have gotten kicked out after this reaction as well. But these guys are going back-to-back in a final series right now, best of 5, 25 and 20 points between them both, and an airborne battle, Joel. You'll like this, the Flying Tigers and the Flying Leopards.
Really?
Yes.
So which of the Flying Cats is the more effective would be the question.
We're going to find out. We're in game 2 right now.
It's an age-old question. David Attenborough's asked it. We're asking it for you here on Heat Check. NBA playoffs action, NBA play-in action is getting underway in the next little while. We know most of the 2 conferences are locked away, but the question is sort of who fills those bottom rungs of the table. We've got some Aussies who are going to be in action over the next couple of days. Basketball.com.au, of course, the place to stay across all of that detail as it happens. Dyson Daniels, we know he's had such a great season. Defensive Player of the Year conversation. He'll be on that first team, and his Hawks are hoping that they can force their way in.
Yeah, I really enjoy this time of year, seeing Australians participate in really big games, and I think they're real determinators for their teams. Dyson, obviously, with his defensive presence, so important. Guys like Josh Giddey as well had a fantastic regular season, and being able to see them translate those numbers into performances when it really matters, I think is really going to boost their stock.
Dante Exum and his Mavs made the play-in. What have you made of his season, sort of coming back from injury and that kind of thing, trying to force his way into the action for the Mavs?
Yeah, it's not the first time we've seen this sort of predicament for Dante. He's been sidelined for most of the season. We know he has his injury woes, but he's been so good. He's played his best basketball in his whole career when he's been with the Mavs. He's come back for these last 2 regular season games, and someone that can really come back, have a bit of an X-factor presence for the Mavs, and hopefully give Mavs fans a reason to have a little smirk or a smile.
Hopefully give them something to have something about, because it's been a bit of a dumpster fire this season for the Mavs, just quietly with everything that's gone on. But he can be a bright spark, and then hopefully he can continue just to build his body and stay fit. I mean, we know what he can do. He came off such a great season in their finals run last year. Hopefully for Dante, he can stay out there and stay active. It's
so hard because he kind of goes out of the collective consciousness at times just because he's not out on the floor. But when he plays, he's such a phenomenal player. We've seen him have such a big impact on the Boomers, with the Mavs in so many different settings. All he needs is that health. Absolutely. Of course, we know the pedigree is there for sure. So basketball.com.au, as the play-in rolls into the playoffs in the NBA, you'll get all the action and updates that you need there. One of our favourite leagues around the world is Puerto Rico. We've talked about it a lot on this program over the last couple of years. We wanted to revisit it, though, from the perspective of we know who is over there. We know that players have been moving over there. But just how that's happening and how the mechanics behind this are working. Because there's some rumblings that maybe NBL teams are kind of
encouraging players and making that a focus of you can come and play for us and then we're happy that you go and play in this league. It's a shorter season, there's good money on offer. The way that the NBL is parlaying opportunities into this competition is really interesting.
Yeah, well, we look at so many of these other leagues around the world, and I think the instinct is to see them as competition. But when they are so complementary in their schedules, and you listed off all the amazing factors for why guys want to go play there, these are not competitors, they're allies. And if you can sort of work that into the arrangement, and if that's part of a player's greater scheme is to go sign in the NBL, but then Puerto Rico in our off-season, I think that's a win-win for everyone involved.
And I mean, just from this is a purely very basic observation, but I would imagine from a life experience perspective, it's just an interesting place to play.
Yeah, beautiful place outside of basketball. The basketball itself looks really fun. We know those commentators are a lot of fun, so we enjoy watching it as well. You know, I think it's the sort of league that NBL fans can get behind. NBL players will really enjoy going to as a bit of a change of pace. It just makes so much sense. It fits seamlessly.
A couple that have enjoyed going there in the last little while are Chris Goulding and Ian Clark, the Melbourne United teammates, coming, of course, off an NBL finals berth. We don't often see Chris Goulding venture overseas, so it's interesting to see him going to Puerto Rico. They took on Rob Edwards recently, so a little bit of a reintroduction between the Cairns man and Ian Clark there and Chris Goulding. This was a little bit of fun.
Yeah, a lot of fun. The United backcourt, back to it. Doesn't take long for them to assimilate and play well together. We know their chemistry already. They had 8 threes between them in this game. Pretty typical fare, so they're doing great things.
We know that Daly's not coming back to Melbourne United. Does that mean that one eye Clark is more of a focus for United, do you think?
I think the potential is increasingly growing. I think those guys love to play together. I think Ian Clark wants to stay in the league and clearly loves Melbourne United and has a great experience there as well.
And Rob Edwards would be another one. So Ian Clark, no contract. Rob Edwards, of course, had the 1 year at Cairns, left a little bit early, but from what Adam Ford said, left on pretty good terms. So, you know, maybe he played himself out of Cairns in terms of a value proposition. I'd imagine the door would be open for other NBL teams, though.
I think he quietly had a very successful season. I think he fit that Cairns team really well because he's a guy that can go and get you a bucket. He was someone that fit that role where he could be that on-ball creator. So other teams are going to have to look at how he fits into their exact needs. But I think in terms of being an NBL caliber import, he absolutely proved himself.
Another one without an NBL contract at the moment is Mojave King. Now, he made way for Chris Goulding at the club over there in Puerto Rico. His future at the moment's a little bit uncertain. Where do you think we might see him bob up?
Yeah, he had a really solid run as a bit of a stopgap for Chris Goulding. As you said, he had 9 points a game, 7 games, started all of them. Solid work from him in Puerto Rico, but it is interesting. You have to remember, he's still 22 years old. He still very much is a prospect. I thought the Breakers season was a step forward for him. And when you look at, rotation guys throughout the league, I think he absolutely deserves a spot somewhere. Yeah,
he showed early particularly that he could shoot the ball, had a couple of injury concerns in the mid part of the season, so Mojave King is a name to watch, of course. We've got players on the move. One of them is Josh Bannon, who's recently signed with the Tasmania Jack Jumpers in the least predictable move of the off-season, of course. I think everyone knew that was coming in one way or another. Creates a really interesting dynamic in terms of he's playing at the moment at Limoges in France. He's not putting up massive numbers, but just working his way into things after an injury-interrupted season again. How do you think he sort of parlays throughout the course of the season? What are you seeing from him at the moment? And how's that trending toward his NBL campaign?
Yeah, limited minutes for Limoges, but he's doing good things. 6 of 3 across about 13 minutes a game. I expect that to sort of ramp up as he assimilates with the team and, as you said, just build some momentum because he had so many injuries throughout the NBL season. It's a great opportunity for Tassie fans to get an early look at their new recruit, but then also to have a think about how does he fit in this Tassie team as well.
Yeah, so that's the question. That's the next question. How does he fit? So they've got Magnay. We're not really sure what they're doing in the backcourt yet, but how does Josh Bannon and Magnay, in terms of and we're assuming that they're fit, we're assuming they're available, how do they fit together as the front line?
I think they're a really good complement, and you think about a local front court, you're not using any import spots in the 4 or 5 position there. I think they fit great. They do all the dirty work between them. Magnay is obviously the shot blocker. Josh Bannon is a great connector type. He can handle the ball a bit, he can pass a bit, do some more stuff on the perimeter. They work together really well, but as you said, staying healthy is going to be the big question mark.
That'll be the big watch. Hopefully Josh Bannon can do that. Will Magnay's been plying his trade in Turkey, of course, more recently too, so it's been good to see them both back out on the court. We started the show with Georgia Amoore. Our Aussie women are doing great things. I reckon Georgia Amoore is going to play a lot of Australian representative basketball with one Ezi Magbagor, who won a EuroLeague championship during the week, had a real impact on the season here for Prague. She is such a talent. We saw what she did at the Olympics last year. There is so much to like about what she brings to the table, and this is richly deserved.
Yeah, fantastic to see her pull out the chip. She has been a fantastic contributor. 8 and 8 across the season. She had 9 points and 10 rebounds in the final. She had 16 and 16 in the semi. But we know with Ezi, it goes beyond the box score. Just her length, her defensive acumen. She's an impact player, and she had a pivotal role to play with this team.
Yeah, absolutely. And gets it done in so many ways with her size and, as you said, her athleticism. So she is so much fun to watch, Ezi Magbagor, and there's so much in her future at the WNBA level, of course, with Seattle, and then in international basketball as well. Another one who's just quietly risen up the ranks in the last couple of years and has been on a bit of a journey is Chloe Bibby. So the 5 years at college, she's played basketball here domestically, of course. Her team in Girona in Spain has just qualified for next year's EuroLeague. So some really good news there ahead of a WNBA opportunity with Los Angeles. Chloe Bibby's doing some, with Golden State. Chloe Bibby's doing some good stuff.
Yeah, she's been fantastic for Girona. The season prior, she was in Poland. She won MVP in that league. She's now in Spain. 21 points a game, got this team into EuroLeague for next season. She's just going from strength to strength right now.
She's always had that stroke. That three-point stroke is looking pure. She can hit the boards. She can do a lot of things. So there's a lot to like about what Chloe Bibby brings to the table. And hopefully with the Valkyries, one of the new teams in the WNBA, there's some opportunities for her because, you know, she hasn't had the easiest run. So now when you get the opportunity, cash in on it.
Yeah, the momentum is all going her way. I think we're only going to see bigger and better things to come from Chloe.
Let's hope so for Chloe Bibby as she continues her career. Another intriguing name, and we talk a little bit about some of the names that catch our eye in Australian basketball. So Mitch Creek is one of them. Any off-season, it's interesting to see where Mitch Creek goes. Another one that seems to come up a lot is Thon Maker. Now, you know, maybe it's past reputation for Thon. Maybe there's still a little bit to offer. Clearly, there's a real intrigue factor with what he's doing and where he could go. Plying his trade in the G League at the moment. What do you think could be next for Thon Maker? Could he be in the NBL anytime soon?
It's hard to pick. He's pretty much been in every circumstance under the sun but the NBL, which is so weird for an Australian local. But yeah, was in the G League most recently, had some injuries interrupting him, didn't get a lot of momentum going there. But now he's re-signed in Al Riyadi, somewhere that he did really successfully last season. He won an MVP as part of that West Asia Super League Championship. And I think we're going to see him in a situation where he's going to play a lot more and we're going to really see what he's all about.
Yeah, so the 24 games with Rio Grande Valley, as you can see, the rim protection's still there, the athleticism's still there. It's just about sort of stitching it together and getting some consistency in his game. I have no doubt he could offer something at the NBL level. It's just whether what he offers and the expectation is aligned.
It seems very circumstantial as well. He went to Europe for a time. He really struggled there. It didn't seem to suit his abilities. The G League seems like a better fit. You know, he's someone that's a bit of a rim runner. He likes to play out on the perimeter, not necessarily do the dirty work as much. That's not his game. But when I think of the NBL, there's a lot of reasons why he might be a fantastic fit there. He's someone that plays with pace. He's able to play a modern perimeter game for a big man. And there's a lot of teams that could do with that.
Absolutely. One who's a great story this week in the NBL is the story of Tom Wilson returning to things. So, of course, plying his trade with the Melbourne Tigers alongside Felix von Hoff and under the great Andrew Gaze at the moment. And he has gone from playing with the Sydney Kings to playing for the Collingwood Football Club, back to Melbourne Tigers, and now on to Melbourne United, having signed this week.
Yeah, he's come full circle. It's been since 2019 was the last time we saw him on an NBL court, but you can tell from his comeback season, but he's taken another step forward this season. Such an incredible shot maker, someone whose qualities are going to step onto an NBL court and have an impact right away. It's fantastic that he's made a roster. I think he can be a contributor not just for this year, but many years to come.
We've seen him in Boomers colours in the past as well. So his ability to slot into that Melbourne United roster where Dean Vickerman will find him an opportunity. Like there's going to be minutes there with some of the players that have left, and he seems ready-made to take that up.
Well, we've seen Melbourne's system caters to these shot-making guards so well with Chris Golding or Ian Clark, being able to run him off screens, having these smart bigs that can really screen and get him open. I think he's in a fantastic situation. I'm so glad that Melbourne United were the team to pull the trigger.
From one shot-making guard to another, Isaac White, who of course is signed in Adelaide for the upcoming NBL season. He's playing over at the Rockingham Flames at the moment under Ryan Petrick, who's doing a really good job over there, and he is putting up numbers in the early part. We highlighted his round one stat sheet last week, but 3 games, an average of 32.5 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists. It seems like every time we get to this year, we see Isaac White putting up numbers. No exception this season.
He has nothing left to prove in NBL 1. We know that he is sensational, not just as a bucket getter, but just as an all-around talent. As you said, the assists, the rebounds. He's doing it all for his teams, this time for Rockingham. And I'm looking at his NBL opportunities. They've always been a bit sparse, a bit inconsistent. We've seen the glimpses. He's now coming home to Adelaide. I wonder if this will be the year where he sort of has a little bit of a breakout.
Why do you think it hasn't worked for him? And that's not to say that he's been a negative at an NBL level. It just the absolutely transcendent form that he shows here hasn't necessarily translated, and the shooting numbers over the last couple of years in Brisbane, albeit a little bit better this year, have been pretty poor. Is there something you can put your finger on as to why?
It is always hard for these little scoring guards. You know, Isaac is an undersized 2 essentially, and that is a really tough translation to the NBL level, but I don't think he's played bad in any of his NBL stops. I think, you know, his opportunity wavered a little bit in Brisbane. I don't know if that was entirely his fault, and I think he'll be primed in this Adelaide situation. They do seem to have a roster primarily made up of shooting guards. I'm thinking of Flynn Cameron, Dejan Vasiljevic, Michael Harris. I don't know how that rotation shakes out, but I feel like Isaac's primed to win out and get a fair chunk of those minutes.
Yeah, and if you can cast your mind back to what he did in Adelaide for Brisbane last year, and even what he did for Tassie a couple of seasons ago, he can be a real force. Let's head across the ditch before we finish up. The NZNBL continues, and Davo Hickey continues to put up extraordinary video game-like numbers over there. He is absolutely having his way with the NZNBL at the moment.
Absolutely dominant. He's just carried on the form that we spoke about last week. A quiet 30, 10 and 11 on Sunday, even quieter 28 and 7 on the Saturday. He's just getting it done. This is too easy for him. Enjoy him in New Zealand while he's there.
Yeah, absolutely. So the averages so far, 4 games, 28 points, 10 rebounds, and 9.8 assists, so just shy of averaging a triple-double so far in this season. Fair to say he's captured the momentum, and he's just playing with so much confidence at the moment.
Yeah, just every game is a new data point to say this is the real Davo Hickey. And if I'm the Illawarra Hawks, I'm starting to think, how do we feature him in our roster more? How do we get him on the ball more? Because this guy is a key feature to our roster.
Someone who'll come up against in the backcourt this season in the NZNBL is Taylor Britt, the Canterbury Rams captain, who's had a really decorated career, especially recently as Canterbury have had a lot of success in this competition. He's just signed with the New Zealand Breakers, so a return to NBL action for him after he spent a few years with the Perth Wildcats some seasons ago.
Yeah, this seems to be the modus operandi for the New Zealand Breakers ownership. Go and get all the New Zealand players and chuck them on a roster. Taylor Britt is the latest one. He has been away from the NBL for a couple of seasons. Spent a couple of years as a DP, some time with the Perth Wildcats, but this is his full roster spot. And it'll be really interesting to see, can he parlay, you know, this really good New Zealand form. He's a really solid point guard into an actual NBL opportunity and role.
And some of what gets spoken about is sort of the leadership, the intangibles, the poise, some of that kind of stuff. And you know, without Mitch McCarron now, New Zealand will need a bit of that in that backcourt.
Yeah, I think those intangibles are a big reason why he's made it onto this roster. You know, the big emphasis has been the culture, the intangibles, you know, creating a winning environment, not just for this season, but over multiple seasons. And I think Taylor's going to be a big part of that.
Let's finish with another Kiwi name who's just signed with the Brisbane Bullets. A name I wasn't hugely familiar with, I must admit, Tane Murray. So played college at Virginia over a number of seasons. He signed a multi-year deal with the Bullets. Tell me a little bit about him.
Yeah, Tane's a really intriguing one. We actually saw him as a really highly touted recruit. As a 17-year-old, he's in the New Zealand NBL, put up 18 points a game. He had 45% from the three-point line. So he's an absolute sharpshooter. He played for Virginia for 4 years, and similar to Cody Statman, didn't play a whole lot. It's a really tough program to get a lot of opportunity at. He was sort of relegated to a spot-up shooter when he did play as well. But now we're back here, 4 years later. We haven't seen much of him. He's a bit of an enigma, but in theory, someone with a lot of size on the wing, someone who can really shoot it, and he's a bit of a sneaky athlete, a crafty finisher at the rim as well.
Yeah, he didn't play a whole heap, but when he shot the ball, he shot it pretty well at Virginia. It took him sort of 40% in multiple seasons, which is a really good sign.
Yeah, and a massive vote of confidence. Brisbane, a 2-year fully rostered deal as well. I think they're looking at him as someone that will really be able to come in and play a role backing up the 2, backing up the 3.
That's really exciting for the Brisbane Bullets and for Tane Murray. Mick, as always, great work from you. Going to be another big week as we keep an eye on the NBA playoffs.
Absolutely. I want to see what these guys do in the play, and I'm sure we're going to circle back next week on that one.
That we will. Thank you to Michael Houben. Thanks for your company as well here on Heat Check. We'll see you next week.